and then maybe it moves on to lay its eggs on the fruit. And as you can and you see now, most of the tomatoes on the Nigerian market, they have black spots on them. That's the tuta absoluta, the tomato leaf miner, laying its eggs on the tomato, and the caterpillar goes inside.
More than 90% of 17,000 hectares of tomato fields outside the northern city of Kano were destroyed by the insect, according to the state's agriculture officials. Tuta absoluta, which originated in South America and spread to Europe and Africa, quickly develops resistance to pesticides, making it difficult to contain. Many studies have estimated that a total of 1 million hectares of land is used annually for cultivation of tomato varieties within Nigeria, making the country the second largest producer of tomato in Africa. However, due to persistent poor practice of farm management, the quality of pre-harvest and the shelf life of post-harvest tomato fruit is hampered by biotic and socio-economic constraints, which affect its overall nutritional value and account for 10 to 30% of yield loss or waste. Agriculture has been identified as having huge potential in the adaptation and mitigation of climate change. However, the ability of the government to formulate good climate change policies and effectively implement the agricultural sector strategies of the policy are key to fight against climate change.
We're going to partner with the Ministry of Water Resources. They have over 200 dams. When they build the dams, they make the resources available to us. We have the river basin lands. Some are overgrown now because over the years people did not utilize them. We cooperate with them. We meet almost on a weekly basis because irrigation is the future. Supporting them, we're going to do a number of lakes under rural development and small dams to make sure that we can harvest food, grow and harvest food at least 3 times a year, grains, vegetables, and support livestock. Those are the issues that concern us and climate-smart agriculture. To the north, the desert is encroaching. We're contributing towards the green wall under the Ministry of Environment by planting 5 million trees next year, supported by IFAD. The year after, we're targeting 10 million trees. A wall to stop the desert encroaching. These are the steps. And then finding seeds that don't require too much water to grow in semi-arid zones. Then in the coastlands and in the east, where erosion is a problem, we're working also with the Ministry of Environment to find what we can do to stop erosion. These projects are going on. The ministries work together. We join hands to take action. Otherwise, there is no other way of dealing with the climate change. Africa is the biggest victim, although we are the least of the polluters. But we have to take decisions to meet these contingencies because we are the biggest victims of this whole tragedy called climate change.
Of an estimated 71 million hectares of cultivable land, only half is currently used for farming. There is similar potential for an expansion of irrigation, which now only covers 7% of irrigable land. Most of the rural population farms on a subsistence scale, using small plots and depending on seasonal rainfall. A lack of infrastructure, such as roads, further exacerbates poverty in rural areas by isolating rural farmers from needed inputs and profitable markets. Pressure from growing population is also impacting already diminished resources, further threatening food production. Overfarmed lands, deforestation and overgrazing are severe in many parts of the country. Drought has become common in the north, while erosion and flooding is a major problem in the south.
Production is affected hugely by all kinds of external factors, and especially the weather situation now, the climate change. You have production variability and production shocks. And at the same time, when you look at the markets, they're largely undeveloped. So you don't have warehouses, to smooth out the supply. You only produce once or twice. But unless you have warehouse, storage services, you cannot really constantly supply the market. So that again is very much underdeveloped, and in many cases, is handled by traditional markets, where the capacity to handle large volume is very limited, and therefore prices tend to fluctuate because of the production factors and also because the market is very, very weak. And there is also this policy intervention. Sometimes, you try to provide to consumers, and therefore the governments buy, and that creates some sort of uncertainty on the part of private traders. So these are the issues why I think we haven't really paid serious attention to market uncertainty or price volatility. And we only care about it when we see some sort of a crisis. Shortages, here and there, and then you say, oh, this is our big issue. But we tend to forget it when we don't have those crises. But this is affecting our agricultural development, our investment in agriculture. And it is affecting not only the farmers' investment, but also the value chain operators, the financial services, the input suppliers, and so on. And that is why I think we need to give more serious attention to market issues.
Nigeria still has the potential to be food secure if the right strategies are adopted and implemented. Experts say these include rural development, provision of easy access to basic farming inputs, adequate budgetary allocations to agriculture, particularly to the food crop subsector, enunciation of appropriate policies for food crop subsector, political stability, reduction in rural poverty, and peasant farmers' education. But then, what is the place of science and technology in the Nigerian agricultural landscape? In recent time, there have been conversations on the use of biotechnology in the sector in the country.
Biotechnology by itself is only a tool. It's how we use it. When you are dealing with stresses, either biological or physiological, that are intractable, and you must then employ the high science to develop GMOs, that's different. It may be the only solution at that point in time. But in Africa, we are not even there. Number two or number three, do we have the capacity ourselves? How many African countries have the protocol, simple protocol? Do we have the capacity even to assess whether what is being imported is a GMO or mixed? No, we do not have any. So it's not as simple as just, for jumping on the bandwagon and saying GMOs are bad or good and effects on the environment. Yes, there are pluses and minuses. But we need to be dispassionate, but to ask ourselves some basic questions. What is the problem with food production in Nigeria, in Africa today? Is it an issue of GMOs? I don't think so.
As Nigeria strives to attain self-sufficiency in food production, there has been increased efforts on the part of government to drive growth and development in the agricultural sector. But without a viable value chain to complement the efforts of the farm, operators say the country may continue its status of being an import-dependent nation.